Imagine a company that's not just, building products. Imagine they're designing entire global supply chains, managing these massive financial risks, and navigating the incredibly complex world of international compensation across dozens of countries.
Yeah, that's a lot to juggle.
It really is. And that's who we're diving into today. This deep dive is all about Flex Ltd, a global manufacturing and supply chain solutions provider.
Right. And we're looking at their latest quarterly report, the 10Q filed June 27, 2025, and the press release that went with it.
Exactly. Our mission for you, the listener, is really to unpack the intricate layers of a truly global enterprise. We'll explore their business model, their financial health, strategic moves.
And what I find fascinating, the surprisingly complex legal and financial details of how they compensate their tiny people globally.
Absolutely. You're going to walk away with, I think, a much richer understanding of what it actually takes to run a company of this scale in today's interconnected world. Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the basics. Who exactly is Flex Ltd? What makes them stand out in, well, a very crowded global manufacturing space?
Well, the sources identify Flex as a Singapore corporation, and they position themselves as an advanced end-to-end manufacturing partner.
End to end. That sounds key.
It really is. It's their differentiator. They're not just sticking parts together. Their offerings cover, well, everything. Initial product design, engineering,
Right.
all the way through manufacturing like precision machining, plastics, system integration, testing, global materials procurement,
Wow, okay.
and even after-sales services like product repair and remanufacturing. Plus, they develop their own supply chain software and make key components like flexible circuit boards.
So this end-to-end thing, it's not just a list of services. It feels like they're aiming to be indispensable, like a single partner managing the whole life cycle for their clients.
That's exactly the idea.
Right.
It creates a very sticky relationship.
Yeah, it makes it hard to leave, like a competitive moat almost.
A significant one, absolutely. And the scale, just to give you a sense, roughly 100 facilities, around 30 countries, 4 continents,
Okay, that's huge.
and the revenue shows it. $6.6 billion for the 3 months ending in June 2025. And for the full fiscal year ending March 2025, $25.8 billion.
Whoa. Okay, let's dive into that latest quarter then, Q1 of their fiscal 26. Performance looks really strong on the surface. Net sales hit $6,575 million, up from $6,314 million last year.
Yeah, a decent jump.
And gross profit, a healthy leap to $572 million. That's 8.7% of net sales, up from $471 million or 705% before.
Margin improvement there too.
Right, and operating income followed suit. $311 million, 4.7% of sales, compared to $233 million, which was 3.7% year over year. Now, these numbers look good, but the CEO, Revati Advati, she called it a great start. What's the strategy driving this? It's not just luck, right?
No, definitely not. What's interesting is she explicitly linked these Q1 results to their strategic focus, specifically on high-growth areas like data centers and power solutions.
Oh, okay, so deliberate choice is paying off.
Precisely. It shows these aren't just random numbers. They reflect strategic bets the company's making.
And to understand those numbers better, Flex uses 2 main reporting segments: Flex Agility Solutions, FAS, and Flex Reliability Solutions, FRS.
Right.
And both saw their income margins improve this quarter. FAS went from 5.3% to 6.5%, and FRS from 5.0% up to 6.0%.
Both moving in the right direction.
Now, something you often see with companies like Flex is the use of non-GAAP measures. Generally accepted accounting principles, but adjusted. For listeners maybe less familiar with accounting jargon, why do they do this? What's the point?
Yeah, good question. Think of non-GAAP as, well, management's way of showing the core business performance. It strips out certain items, often non-cash things like stock compensation or amortization of intangibles from acquisitions.
Things that can bounce around a lot.
Exactly. Things that might not reflect the day-to-day operational health. So using non-GAAP helps make period-to-period comparisons clearer. It helps identify underlying trends and lets you compare Flex more easily against competitors who likely report similar adjusted figures.
Got it. So it's about clarity on the core ongoing business.
That's the goal, yes.
Okay. So they're performing well, they're strategically focused. But how does a company this massive actually grow and adapt? Especially with all the, global headwinds.
Right, there's always something.
That brings us to their strategic moves. Acquisitions, for one. On April 30th, 2025, they bought a manufacturing business in Poland, Bielsko-Biała, for $35 million. integrated into their FRS segment.
A targeted edition.
But what really jumped out at me in the report was how they detailed that $35 million purchase price. They broke it down meticulously. What does that level of detail tell you about how they view acquisition?
Oh, that's a great point. Because allocating that $35 million across not just the physical stuff like inventory and property, but also intangible assets, things related to customer relationships and technology, that tells you a lot.
Like what specifically?
It shows they're not just buying buildings or equipment. They're strategically acquiring know-how, market access, the future potential. It's a window into what they truly value in a deal. It's about capability building, not just capacity.
Interesting. Beyond buying things, they're also working on financial flexibility.
Absolutely. They just entered into a new $2.75 billion revolving credit facility on July 15th, 2025. That replaces an older $2.5 billion one and pushes their flexibility out until July 2030.
Gives them room to maneuver.
Definitely. And they're also returning cash to shareholders. They bought back $247 million worth of their ordinary shares in the recent quarter.
Okay, so they've got financial muscle. But like you said, no global giant is immune to external shocks. How are they dealing with the constant turbulence out there, the global risk landscape?
Yeah, it's unavoidable. They mentioned monitoring global conflicts like the war in Ukraine and the Israel-Hamas conflict. They state no material impact so far on operations or financials.
Which is good news, but
they acknowledge the uncertainty, of course. Tariffs are another one. The U.S. implemented global tariffs back in Q4 of their fiscal 25.
right, that's been ongoing.
But Flex says they've mostly been able to pass those costs through to customers. So the impact on their profitability this latest quarter was, quote, negligible.
That's key, being able to pass it through. But what if they couldn't? If customers push back, what levers could they pull then?
That's the critical question, isn't it? If pass-through stops working, they'd likely have to dig deeper into operational efficiencies. Maybe optimizing manufacturing even more, finding alternative suppliers, perhaps even shifting production geographically to less tariff-impacted zones.
The constant juggling act.
Absolutely. And it's not just tariffs. Their supply chain is always a risk area. They explicitly mention component shortages, still an issue, transportation disruptions.
And even those attacks on shipping in the Red Sea.
Exactly. It really paints a picture, doesn't it? A global company isn't just managing its factories, it's constantly reacting to geopolitics, economics, everything. Strategic management of these external pressures is just paramount.
And managing financial risk, too, like currency swings. They use a lot of foreign currency derivatives, right? Forwards, swaps, options.
A substantial amount, yes. The report mentioned $6.4 billion in notional value as of June 27th.
And just to clarify for listeners, notional value is the face value, not the actual cash risk, but it shows the scale of the exposure they're managing.
Precisely. And they're very clear. This is for hedging committed exposures. It's defensive. They're not speculating. And they minimize counterparty risk by dealing with major financial institutions. It's a crucial part of protecting their bottom line from global volatility.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and pull back the curtain on how Flex motivates its leaders. Executive compensation. How do they tie pay to performance, starting with cash bonuses?
Right. Their annual incentive bonus plan for fiscal 26 links executive cash bonuses directly to performance goals. Things like operating profit, free cash flow, revenue targets.
And these aren't small targets, I assume?
No, they're significant. The CEO's target bonus is 165% of her base salary. The CFO's is 115%. Other top execs are between 100 and 110%.
Wow. And payouts can vary.
They can range from 30% of that target all the way up to 200%. Plus, the plan allows for adjustments based on individual performance. And interestingly, they can exclude extraordinary items like the impact of the Ukraine conflict from the performance calculations.
Makes sense. You don't want external shocks completely derailing incentives. What about longer-term alignment, beyond just the annual bonus?
That's where restricted share units, or RSUs, come in. These are tied to longer-term performance, typically over 3 years.
And what metrics do they use for those?
Two main ones mentioned. Total shareholder return, or RTSR, relative to a peer group, and that group includes big names like Acer, HP, Xerox, Jabil.
So how they perform versus competitors?
Exactly. And the other is earnings per share, EPS, growth targets over that 3-year period, say from June 2025 to June 2028.
And the potential payout on these RSUs?
Also variable. For the RTSR portion, it can range from 0% to 200% of the target number of shares. For the EPS portion, it can go up to 250%. So strong incentives for long-term value creation and growth.
Okay, and then there's this deferred compensation plan. It's for a select group of management or highly compensated employees, often called a top hat plan.
That's right. It's structured to be exempt from some of the stricter ERASA regulations that govern broader retirement plans.
And how does it work? What can they defer?
Participants can defer a pretty significant chunk, up to 70% of their base salary, and do with their bonus. And importantly, the amounts they choose to defer are fully vested immediately.
So that money is theirs, just deferred. This sounds like a big perk for executives, letting them push income and the taxes on it into the future. What's the main takeaway for how it actually functions day to day, especially around getting the money out?
The main takeaway is, yeah, it's a powerful tax deferral tool for high earners. It helps with retirement planning. While their own deferred salary or bonus is vested right away, any discretionary awards the company might grant into this plan usually vest later, typically on the fourth anniversary.
Okay.
But payouts can happen earlier under certain conditions, especially retirement. And Flex defines that quite specifically. Age 55 with 5 years of service, and your age plus years of service has to equal 65 or more. You also need to give proper notice and sign a release of claims.
Very specific rules.
Yes, it incentivizes staying with a company while offering significant future financial planning flexibility.
All right, this leads us nicely into the global compliance maze. This is where it gets really intricate, doesn't it? Operating in so many different countries.
It really does. First off, employees in these equity plans, they're personally on the hook for any taxes, what they call tax-related items. And the company can actually withhold shares to cover those tax bills.
Practical. What about things like confidentiality?
Strict rules there. Non-disclosure obligations for confidential info and trade secrets are standard, though they do carve out protections for whistleblowers under the U.S. Defend Trade Secrets Act.
Important clarification. And post-employment restrictions, non-competes.
Yes, both. For 12 months after leaving, former execs generally can't solicit customers they dealt with in the last 2 years. And they can't work for a competitor in a similar role.
That sounds broad.
It is, although there's a specific carve-out. The non-compete doesn't apply to employees in California. And get this, if someone violates these restrictions, the 12-month clock can actually be paused, tolled, and extended.
Wow, okay. But the part that really made my jaw drop, honestly, was just how different the rules are from country to country for these same compensation plans. Can you even imagine keeping track of that? 30 different sets of rules.
It's mind-boggling. Absolutely. Yeah. Take China and Korea, if you're an employee there and your RSUs vest. You have to sell them immediately. And you have to bring the cash back into your home country. Imagine getting shares and being forced to sell right away, regardless of the market.
That's incredible. What else?
Well, in places like Austria, Italy, Taiwan, there are specific exchange control reporting rules. If you hold shares outside the country, or if transactions hit certain thresholds, you have paperwork to do.
And the UK has its own quirks too, right?
It does. Employees there actually agree to take on the liability for something called secondary class 1 national insurance contributions. That's typically an employer tax, but here the employees agree to cover it for these share awards. It shows how localized tax burdens can get.
Unbelievable. Any others that stood out?
Mexico is interesting. The RSU award documents explicitly state that the plan doesn't create an employment relationship with Flex Ltd in Singapore. It emphasizes the plan is run out of Singapore, not by the local Mexican employer.
Why does that matter?
It could significantly affect legal claims related to employment that someone might try to bring locally in Mexico. It walls off the parent company administering the plan.
Fascinating legal structuring.
Then you have Malaysia and Singapore, where directors have specific legal duties to notify authorities about their dealings in company shares. And South Africa reminds employees about insider trading rules. Can't sell if you have material non-public info.
It's just a lot.
This whole section just begs the question, how on earth do companies like Flex manage this vast, varied tapestry of legal and tax rules while still trying to offer a global compensation strategy that feels reasonably consistent?
It really underscores the sheer scale of the compliance effort needed. You see the CEO and CFO certifying their disclosure controls and internal controls in the report.
Yeah, standard practice,
But here you realize it's not just a rubber stamp. It represents a monumental, ongoing task to navigate this global legal and regulatory labyrinth every single day. It's way beyond just managing the finances.
Absolutely. It's a core operational challenge.
Yes. So wrapping up our deep dive today, we've seen Flex Ltd as, well, much more than just a manufacturer. They are clearly masters of global supply chain solutions. They're adept at managing financial risk with sophisticated hedging.
And they're navigating this incredibly complex web of international compensation and legal compliance,
Hmm.
which is maybe the most surprising part for many.
I think understanding a company like Flex gives you that aha moment. You realize there are these huge, often invisible layers of financial and legal architecture holding up our global economy.
Yeah, it's not just about what gets built, but how the systems, the people, the incentives are structured to make it all happen everywhere all at once.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. As technology keeps connecting the world even more tightly, how might these already intricate global compliance and compensation strategies have to evolve?
That's a great question. What new hidden layers might emerge in the future of international business that we haven't even thought of yet?